Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the English news from Djibouti channels. Here are the headlines of our edition tonight. The top titles are: the President of the Republic receive many businessmen of the CEO of Africa 17. On continental news, a vote for change in Kosovo. Welcome if you join us. The President of the Republic's Excellency, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, received this morning the CEO of the Africa 15 Infrastructure Fund, Mr. Alan, at the Presidential Palace. The audience between the head of state and the CEO mainly led to the investment of the two major projects that are underway in Djibouti. These projects are Bastille Airport and electricity. Africa 50, which is a pan-African infrastructure investment platform, contribute to the growth of African countries by developing and investing in profitable projects. This institution acts as a catalyst for public services capital and mobilize private sector financing through financial returns and differentiated impact. The meeting was attended by the Minister of Economy, Mr. Ilyas Musadawale, the Secretary General of the Presidency, Mr. Mohamed Abdullahi Wais, the Economic Advisor of the Presidency, Mr. Sikiya, and finally the Advisor of the Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Ibrahim Ahmadou. After his meeting with the head of the state, the CEO of Africa 50, Alan Ibubise, addressed the press microphone to tell us more about the objective of his meeting with the head of state, as well as about its organization, which contribute to the growth of African countries by developing and investing in profitable projects. The Minister of Economy, Mr. Ilyas Musadawale, stressed that African is a financial institution specialized in infrastructure created at the initiative of the African Development Bank. African fifth mission is to promote development by promoting investment structure project. This is achieved by catalyzing public sector capital and mobilize private sector financing. Focus on high-impact international and regional projects, mainly in the energy and transport sector. The purpose of the fund, said, it's to mobilize private financing, accelerate infrastructure development in Africa, and boost growth in African countries. The Republic of Djibouti recalled the minister as one of the African countries that have subscribed to the Capital of Pan-African Institution. We have just learned with sadness the death that occurred today late afternoon in Paris. Fire Saad Omar Guelleh, General Manager of the Port of Djibouti. The deceased Saad Omar Guelleh, who is the young brother of the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, was a senior executive of high administrations for a long time in the Port of Djibouti, a man who has followed all the stage of the evolution of the port infrastructure of Djibouti, has just left us, a man highly estimated and respected person. The deceased Saad Omar Guelleh was born around 1950 in Djibouti. He leaves behind him two widows and children. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, represented by the Director General of Technical Education and Vocational Training, Abdul Qadir Hamad, yesterday signed public-private partnership agreements with the City 6 hotels, namely Djibouti Campeski Palace, Djibouti Sheraton Hotel, Atlantic, as well as Capital Acacias and the Horset Hotel. The signing ceremony was held at the Menfob in the presence of the Secretary General Mohamed Abdullah Mahyoub, the USAID representative, ATF, and the Director General of Abdul Qadir Hamad is supported by Djibouti Unemployability Project funded by the United States government through USAID and implemented by the Education Development Center. These agreements will facilitate collaboration between Manhub and the six hotel through establishing a lasting relationship between private sector and employees and the government. The hotels have especially agreed to collaborate with the Manhub on the activity that aim to improve the quality of training and employability. They will also support the expansions of workplace learning opportunity for students. The Minister of Defense in charge of relation with the Parliament, Mr. Hassan Umar Mohammed, received a delegation from the East African Standby Force. After the customary greetings, the director Abdullahi Umar Bouh introduced the East African Regional Standby Force, which is a regional organization responsible for promoting peace and security in the East African region. During the meeting, the Minister Hassan Umar Mohammed Burhan and the ESF delegations had extensive discussion on peace and security issues within the East African region and beyond. In addition, the director explained that the delegation he was leading was visiting Djibouti to explore the capacity of the new Gendarmerie National Training Center located at Beka 23 with a view to enable to the host the ECF training activity in the future. For his part, the Minister of Defense responsible for relations with the Parliament recalled that the Republic of Djibouti, which is one of the 10 EASF member states, play a key role in regional security and highlights its full availability to assist the ECF in the field of training by providing them with the various training centers in the Republic of Djibouti. A Djibouti delegation led by the Minister of Housing, Mrs. Amina Abdi Aden, took part in the work of the 36 sessions of the Council of Arab Ministers responsible for housing and urban development, which was held from 2 to 6 October in United Arab Emirates. At the high-level session, minister discussion adopted several proposed agenda items. The most important point concerned the organizations of the celebration of the Arab Housing Day next year, the exchange of experience and the intensification of cooperation between Arab countries in the field of housing and constructions, the preparation of the Arab Plan for Housing and Urban Development in line with the United Nations Programme for Sustainable Development by 2030, the renewal of the Executive Committee of the Council of Arab Ministers for Housing. In the regard, it should be noted that the Republic of Djibouti has joined the Executive Committee of the Council of Arab Ministers. The Minister of Urban Planning, Environment and Tourism, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa Hilim, received in his office Mr. Koji Yonitani, Ambassador of Japan in the Republic of Djibouti. The meeting was held by Mr. Dini Abdullah Umar, Secretary General of the Ministry of Urban Planning, Environment and Tourism, as well as Mr. Adhan Hassan Ilmi, the Technical Advisor. The Ambassador of Japan informed the Minister of Japanese Activity in support of Djibouti's socio-economic development. The Minister of Housing thanked the President of Japan for his courtesy visit and welcomed the excellent relationship between the two countries. Finally, the Minister of Housing wishes to strengthen cooperation between his department and Japan in the field of urban planning, the environment, and tourism. In the context of promotion for the professional integration and employability of disabled person institution by law number 133 of 28 January 2006, in this article 117 to 120, the Director General of the National Agency for Disabled Persons, Mr. Duale Saeed Mahmoud, in collaboration with the Director of Recruitment for Djibouti Free Port and Zone Authority, Dr. Saeed Yassin Almi, organized a discussion session with a young graduate with disabilities in search of employment today in the meeting room of the NPH. The purpose of this requirement session is to promote the participation, integration, and equal opportunity of people with disabilities in the workshop, to respect the employability code, gradually address discrimination in hiring, and this improve access to employment opportunities for people with disabilities in the private and public sector. The discussion was the occasion for a first contact, punctuated by the rich and fruitful exchange on the issue of the employability of disability, and also the establishment of a sustainable collaboration in the field of promoting the professional integration of people with disability living in our country. The director of the National Agency for Disabled Persons stressed the context of promoting the professional integration and employability of people with disabilities. The authorities of Djibouti's port and free zone has played a major role in hiring and thus improving access to employment opportunity for people with disabilities. He recalled that there was a discussions and occasional contact with the issue of employability of disability between the two institutions, and this resulted in the hiring of people with disabilities in the private and public sector. Finally, the director of the agency, Mr. Saeed Yassin Almi, organizing this hiring session, which aims to promote the integration and equal opportunities for people with disability. In the additions editorial, we will talk to you about young Djiboutian engineers who are embarking in entrepreneurship and decided to create their own company after often technological. The entrepreneurship, although it's empowering fast in Djibouti, is evolving and is making a place for itself in the life of young Djiboutians. But show others the power to dream bigger and limitless, while confronting their dreams to the world with the society.
Because they have a lot of projects in perspective, just as mini power plants in the region, and also they have a lot of other projects just as greenhouses, and they want to make installation of all the panels in Djibouti. So that interests me a lot. And this project is actually an interest, it's a social project. This project will help them to study at night, because sometimes they don't have electricity in their region. And that's why this project will help them to work and to go forward and to succeed their life.
Of the first president of the Court of Appeal, Mrs. Nim'a Ali, and the General Deputy Executor and the two new lawyers, Ibrahim Al-Midris and Thomas Ken, were sworn in before the court in the presence of the leading members of Djibouti Bar, the General Deputy Public Prosecutor, Mr. Ibrahim Almi, to briefly introduce the two new lawyers. Here, after it was the turn of the automotive forcing expert, Mr. Nidal Mustafa Ghaffar, to take the oath before the court. Djibouti artists organized in the evening of Thursday a commemorative of 12th anniversary of the national icon late Abdullah Leh, who left us on 7th September 2007. The King of Cal left behind him a music, but also a state of mind and a way of life for those who listen to him and for the artists who are inspired by him. A vibrant tribute is certainly paid to him last night at the Saline of Djibouti, song that make the heart of all Djiboutian of the late Abdallah beat faster were performed from the beginning to the end of the evening to properly commemorate the day of his death. Let's recall that the artist Abdallah has been able to mark the mind of all Djiboutian with the imprint of and story that both fascinated and inspired. It wasn't just music; it's a life. The king of the cake. He talked about all the feelings in life, which made his music unique of its kind. In world news, in Kosovo, 37 years old Sosha may become the first woman to hold the post of Prime Minister of Kosovo following the election in which former guerrilla commanders are threatened by a new generation of political leaders like the conservative leaders. Albin nicknamed is another of these candidates for the post of head of government. He's 44 years old, a former student leader who was imprisoned by Slobodan. The election is taking place in a climate of great voter fatigue in a country where corruption is endemic and where a quarter of the population is employment. Here we write the end of this news edition. Thank you for watching us. Goodbye.